Hello, my name is Green and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this Minecraft starter base. It's got a lot of the cool things that we would want. It's on stilts for protection. It's got a couple of buildings, some farms and a stable as well, plus plenty of room to walk around. It looks complicated, but if we take it step by step, it should be fairly easy to make. So let's get straight into it, shall we? The first thing that we need to do is make the platform that the base is going to be built on. This allows you to place it anywhere in a survival world. So what we need to do is make one set of pillars that is going to be the support all the way around. This is the design that I've gone for. It's two sets of logs with some cobblestone mixed in and a few minor details. There is, of course, on your part, the ability to add some innovation or differences as you see fit. That is the best way to add your own style to this base. We then want to replicate that 4 times to make a square. This is the optimal size for this design, especially if you're going block for block on this. If you go too much, it's gonna be way too big to fill, and if you go one less, it's gonna be a bit difficult to fit stuff in as it will be small. We then have a slight difference in our pillars to add in a staircase at the point of the corner. So once you've done that, you've got your pillars set. All there is now to do is fill in this space with a bunch of slabs to give us our flooring. This is where we are going to be building absolutely everything. Fairly simple step, but necessary nonetheless. Now we're going to be working on our main house. It's fairly simple. It's a large rectangular base made out of sandstone, but instead of having standard framing where we put one log on each corner, there's actually 2 either side of the sandstone corner, as you can see on screen. If you're copying this block for block, this is where you kind of need to pay attention, but the bottom line is there's 5 blocks between each of these pillars, except for the front where there's a distinct entrance. You should be able to work it out from looking at that. Detailing in between these 2 pillars is fairly simple. We got some trapdoors either side and some staircases upside down, and it's a very square framework with it. And we've also added some grass in front with flowers to give it a bit more colour. These buildings do tend to be very, very brown as they use a lot of wood in them. It's the same on the end here, and you can add lots of variation. You can use different coloured wood, you can use different blocks. In fact, you could use pretty much any block you want. It's just the structure that will produce this shape, and instead of grass, I've got different kinds of leaves there as well. The detailing can be altered completely, or you can follow what I've done. On the top, added the roof shape in there pretty prematurely, just so that we know where the house is going to go a bit later on and we can start connecting things up. So one side is done, the bottom half of a side is done, and we now need to do the other end. That way we can start linking everything up, and it's exactly the same procedure. You can replicate exactly what was done on the other side. This is a symmetrical house. It's only the front of the build which is going to really offer any difference in the shape and the detailing, as we do want to have some sort of distinct feature. So for the most part, we are replicating exactly what we made. Perhaps you could use some different windows or try something a little more exciting with the details than I did. I spammed quite a lot of trapdoors. Now it's time to start connecting up our roof, and we can work on the front now that we know where everything else is. I don't recommend doing the front first, as it may confuse everything else a little later on. What we're going to do is build a couple of stilts that come out at an angle at the front, and we're going to have a protruding dormer that's going to dominate the front of this house. We've got a little bit of detail either side that's very similar to the detailing that we've done everywhere else around the house. And once you've got this framework in place, it's fairly straightforward from there. We're using exactly the same detailing techniques as everywhere else, and we can start connecting up the cobblestone framework for the roof, and at the front we can add another extra bit that goes all the way to the top. Now you can see why we did the other bits first, because now it's going to be a lot easier to link all of this up. So there's a pretty cool technique that I'm going to use here to make roofs look a little bit better or more interesting. You'll notice that I'm not using staircase, I am using full block, and that is to try and give it a bit more texture, and you'll see that in a minute. But what I'm doing is also adding some cobblestone staircases that sort of look like they're ropes all the way over. They sort of just give it a bit more texture and shape, or whatever. It just gives it more color, it breaks it up, and it looks more attractive in general. So we just need to do the same thing on the back here and connect up those cobblestone bits as well. It's completely just an aesthetic choice. I also added some slabs because I like things to look a bit more messy. If you prefer to have it a bit more uniform, then you can do that as well. I also added some very minute details, such as buttons and trapdoors, and some ferns in pots. The greenery really helps tie in all of these builds together. That little bit of colour does so much to a very brown and grey build. It really highlights and accentuates it. As you can see, it's a very simple house, and you could probably make this without any of the extra bits on its own if you wanted, but it's going to start coming in together with all the other bits we're now going to work on. We're going to make a second layer to our platform just to maximize the space. So we'll start by making a staircase. Make sure that you do it pretty far over to the right so that you've got plenty of space to work with. This is the awkward part because these stilts are slightly bigger and will not match up with the bottom. But to be honest with you, most people will not notice once the whole thing is completed, so try not to get too worked up about keeping everything symmetrical. However, if your OCD does trigger you on these, go ahead and put them straight on the existing pillars like I have on this side. It does mean that you'll have different sized detailing. Some of them will be consistently 5 apart, but some may be more or less. Either way, we want to create our second platform directly above, imitating what was below and filling it in again with some oak slabs. You'll see that I've raised up on the platform the pillars for our second building, and it is a little odd in shape. Indeed, it could be a little longer. I just made a design choice to make it a bit smaller. It is very similar in detail to the first house. Of course, we want to keep things fairly consistent. So we got some upside down staircases, we got some sandstone, but you are more than welcome to use a different palette altogether. It's fairly easy to make these houses, they are standard. It's all about the placement on the platform and getting that height correct. Over the doorway we've got another set of roofs that go all the way to the top, and again we're just making sure that we've got the framework for the roof, so it makes it easier for us to connect everything up with full blocks. And I'm also going to be doing that little cobblestone trick to try and break up that texture and make it look a bit more interesting. Building this house should be fairly similar to building the first one, and if you manage to do that, you shouldn't have much difficulty with it. The only difference being that it is higher up and it might be a little bigger on this side in particular, as it is not the standard 5 blocks. So there's a lot of room for detailing. As you can see, I tried multiple different designs before settling on this one, using some staircases just to create an indent for my detailing. At the front I added some more little details. You can totally go nuts on this and go whatever direction you want. I've tried to include multiple suggestions on mine so that you can kind of pick and choose what you like and you don't like. So as you can see, this house up here is a lot smaller than the first one that we made, and that wasn't really by design. What I was trying to do was balance out this build. If I had made the one on the top way bigger, it would have seemed very top heavy. It needs to be quite small, and I even had the idea of creating a chicken coop there so that the eggs could fall down as they are laid. So as you can see, we've got our two houses and it works really well. They complement each other and the sizes are just right. So we're going to add some spruce in here to make a little bit of a pattern to try and break up that continuous oak that dominates the platform. Underneath, because we've got a lot of space to work with, I decided to add a little stable. You could use proper blocks for this and make it too high, but I opted to have fences with some trapdoors on top, and then changed it to have some hay and some pathway in there as well, so it really makes it feel like the horse lives in there, and then tied it up because it could probably walk away using the hay. On the right hand side here, I decided to add a quick little farm. The only problem here is that the slab that the platform is made out of is only half a block thick, but the farm of course goes down a full block, so you probably need to cover it up with some more slab. It does make it thicker in places, but it's not really that noticeable. That's the main thing. I also added a farm on the top as well, but made it more shaped so that you can walk by fairly easily. You can also add some lily pads on that so that you can walk around. You can also open up that window and connect the whole build together so that you could go in one door, go up the stairs, along the farm, and out to the other. And that's pretty much it. We've got our larger house, which you might have all your main things, and then we've got our platform with some farms on it. We've got a little stable, and we've got a nice platform. If you added some fences there where the staircase is at the top, mobs can't get in either. It's a pretty defendable location as well, so you've got a complete base. I think it looks pretty awesome, and there's lots of opportunities for you guys to make this way better. You can improve the detailing, you could perhaps mix up the palette, or you could make it bigger and go nuts and add multiple different houses. The point of this is to inspire you to create your own Minecraft builds and bases. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.